Welcome back, America. We're here with a dear friend of mine, Stephen A. Smith. And Stephen A. Smith and I met many years ago at a radio event.
Yeah.
And as I recall, Stephen A., you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you will. You came up to me and you said, I'm a fan of yours. I don't always agree with you.
That's right.
But I like the way you do radio. And I said, there's the great Stephen A. Smith.
Yes.
He's a fan of mine.
Yes.
And we've been friends ever since. We don't agree on everything, but we are very agreeable. And so this is what I wanted to ask you. Mm-hmm. More and more, you're in the world of non-sports. You're talking about current events and talking about politics, philosophy, whatever, which is a good thing. And I noticed the other day you're talking about it, and you don't line up with one party or another. You don't really line up with one philosophy or another. And you're kind of calling out Democrats and saying, you got to get with your program. You got to fix what you're doing. You can't keep doing what you're doing and you're going to lose. And you took a lot of hell. So my question to you is this. Isn't this kind of stereotypical that people expect a sports guy, a black guy on ESPN to toe the line or else? And yet, you know what? Because of you, I watch more and more ESPN, and I don't find that to be the case at all. I find a lot of different opinions and a lot of different guys in a lot of different areas. But isn't that problematic?
It's problematic, but I wouldn't confine it to the world of sports. I think that the Democratic Party have been very adroit and skilled up until recently in really coming across as if they have this high moral ground to stand on and essentially guilting people into believing whatever it is that they're singing about. And I think that ship has sailed now. I think that with these latest election results, the American people have spoken. There's no way around that. When you consider the fact that Donald Trump won all the swing states, that he basically elevated his cachet in every demographic that you can find. He won the popular vote as well as the electoral college vote. It was an indictment against the Democratic Party. They went too far left. They ignored the common sense, middle of the road, sensible voter as far as I'm concerned. I don't believe that most of American citizens are on the fringes, whether it's extreme right or left. I think most of us, whether it's center right or center left, want to be in a position to compromise. We want to see people communicating with one another, getting along with one another and expressing their levels of disagreements. In other words, disagreeing without being disagreeable per se. And we didn't see that. And as a result, when you engage in demagoguery and fear mongering, and that's your battle cry in order for you to receive votes, the American people said enough of that nonsense. And I'm happy about that. And so the fact that I speak up about that and people attack me, you know me well enough, Mark. Like you said, you and I go back about 20 years now. I could give less than a damn about them attacking me or whatever the case may be. I'm a fair-minded individual. I'm going to call balls and strikes like I see it. And I think that this, just like in 2020, one could argue that folks did not vote for Biden. They voted against Trump. I think in this case, it wasn't about voting for Trump. It was about voting against the left and how extreme they became and how hypocritical their message was ultimately absorbed to be by the American people. That is why they lost this election, and that's why Donald Trump is going back into the White House.
When we come back, my question to you, Stephen A. Smith, is this. You say you probably voted. I think you voted for Kamala Harris.
I did.
Could you see yourself looking back on this, watching how Trump is conducting himself, watching his views, common sense, he says, that's my philosophy, it's common sense, reaching out to an awful lot of people on the Democrat side, even on the left. Mm-hmm. Could you now see yourself today voting for Donald Trump when we come back? Welcome back, America. Stephen A. Smith. So could you see yourself seeing what you see now? And obviously, Donald Trump can't run for president again, but if he could, under the current circumstances, could you see yourself voting for him?
Quite possibly. I'm not going to sit up there and dismiss that anymore. I think we're beyond that. He would have to prove a lot, Mark. And I'm not talking about policy now for a second. Allow me to say this. What concerned me about Donald Trump and the reason I voted against him and voted for Kamala Harris was because I felt that he would be divisive, that he would create chaos because he demands such a level of loyalty and fealty to him. And that would take priority over governing our nation. That was my concern. And so I'm looking for both sides to work across the aisle from one another. Having said that, when you see some of the things that he said, if he follows through on some of the things that he has said, it's not just about eradicating inflation, improving the economy, obviously controlling our borders. These are all things that I care about. Make no mistake about that. And I certainly would support him in that regard. But it can't be just about fealty to him and loyalty to him. It has to be about getting the job done on behalf of what's in the best interest of the American people, as opposed to yourself, and not engaging in the kind of juvenile tendencies, tweeting all the time and going after people who are really much irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. You do things like that and you show that you're the adult in the room. Yeah. I don't think anybody could dismiss Donald Trump at this particular moment in time, not just because of him, but because of what we've seen the Democrats do. We're not falling for it any longer. The American people aren't falling for it any longer. I voted Democrat, and I got to tell you something right now. I don't like the fact that I did. I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't want to hear about, oh, we're about law. We're about a law. Nobody's above the law. Nobody's above the law. But then you go out and you pardon your son and you try to blame everybody else for it. I don't want to hear about defund the police. I don't want to hear about, you know what, there should be open borders. I don't want to hear this stuff. And I don't think most of the American people want to hear that. We're thinking about the state of affairs that's in. We're not about America only, but being about America and prioritizing what's going on in this nation with the desolate and the disenfranchised and everybody else in between, and looking out for the best interest of what it is for America. That is not a crime for an American politician or a commander-in-chief or a senator or a congressional figure to have that mentality. I want them to have that mentality. So I think about things along those lines. And I'm no longer interested in, nor do I believe any of us should be interested in listening to a bunch of fear-mongering to tell us who we shouldn't vote for. Why don't you come up with a plan that tells us why we should vote for you? That's what I'm interested in. And if Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Byron Donald, Marco Rubio, or the host of other Republican candidates coming down the pike, that's the kind of message that they're going to put forth, I'm down for it. I'm open-minded enough to make sure that I entertain that from a policy perspective. That's what I want for the American people. That's what I want for this nation.
That's why we love you, my man. Now, one quick question. I don't have a lot of time left.
Sure.
You get this all the time. Who's going to win the Super Bowl? Kind of a dumb question, but I like it anyway.
I got to tell you something right now. You can never count out Patrick Mahomes, the reigning two-time defending Super Bowl champion. But this guy, Josh Allen, with the Buffalo Bills, the way he's looking right now, he's my leading candidate for league MVP honors. He looks absolutely phenomenal. It wouldn't surprise me at all if the Philadelphia Eagles played the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl and Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills ended up winning a Super Bowl championship. The way this kid is looking, he's looking that special.
I know. And you know, you've got great quarterbacks everywhere, and he's like the standout of the bunch. It's unbelievable. Stephen A., I love your show on ESPN. I love your other shows that you're doing. I'm glad you're stepping out and you're doing other things. You're a very smart guy. And God bless you, my friend.
God bless you. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you and yours, buddy. You take care.